This week, we are east of downtown in the North Historic District, and there are some amazing houses up here, including a 35,000 square foot mansion that we get to visit. This neighborhood is full of uniquely beautiful stately homes. This one is called the Tiffany Mansion, and it was built by Flavel B. Tiffany. Tiffany was an ophthalmologist here in Kansas City. But this is the house that we came to see. This is called Corinthian Hall and was built by Robert A. Long in 1910. It's in the Beaux-Arts style, and he was a lumber baron who owned vast acres of timberland in Washington state. The Longs were inspired by their grand trip to Europe and decorated the mansion to reflect what they had seen. This house was opened as a museum in 1940. The rooms on the lower level have been restored to the original appearance in 1910, and upstairs houses the Kansas City Museum. Let's go check it out.
At this ceiling, I don't know if it's gold painted or gold leaf, but I bet initially it was gold leaf. Ornate ceiling. Look at how beautiful it is. Do you see this ornate staircase? I mean, I feel like I'm on the Titanic. It's incredibly beautiful. The ceilings here are amazing. Everybody needs a staircase like this in their home. Wow. Amazing.
And we're going to head in here to the Kansas City Museum. Now, this museum does an excellent job of presenting Kansas City's vast history. And while there is a lot to see here, there are just a few items that have caught my attention, including these paving bricks from 1893. These were found at 3rd in Delaware in downtown Kansas City. But of all the items in this museum, the one that captured my attention the most was this display about the priest of Pallas. This was a week-long festival that was held at the turn of the century from 1887 to 1912, and it was centered around the goddess Athena. There were parades and festivals, sporting events, battle reenactments, and dances. You could kind of equate that to Mardi Gras in New Orleans. At the end of the festival week, they held a Priest of Pallas ball, and it was by invitation only, and that invitation was sent to you by a mysterious man named Jackson. No one knew who Jackson was, but if you didn't get an invitation, you weren't going to the ball, Cinderella. It was incredibly inclusive, and I have no doubt that the people who lived in this house, the Longs, were invited every year. At each ball, prizes and tokens were given out. These became status symbols. People would put them on their mantles in their parlors so their guests would know that they were important enough to have gotten an invitation to the ball. And I really do wish Kansas City would bring this tradition back. Not that I would be invited to the ball, but I wouldn't mind seeing some of the parades and the floats. And this lady right here is Nell Donnelly Reed. In 1919, she and her husband Paul established the Donnelly Garment Company, which flourished in Kansas City through the Depression and into the 1950s. Her workers were mostly women, and they were so loyal that when unions started to form in the 1930s and 40s, they chose not to unionize. On December 16, 1931, Nell was kidnapped and held for $75,000 ransom. That is the equivalent to nearly $1.5 million today. The entire city was frantically searching for her, including John Lazia, who was a purported gangster here in Kansas City. She was held captive for 34 hours before she was rescued. And there is so much more to this story and to her. I think this winter, when it's hard to get out and about, I might have to do an in-depth story on this gal. Like, look at this. I wonder what this was for. It's like little ringers for, like, apartments. So now we are going to head down to the lower level and just look at that ornate carving on the side of the staircase. And before we headed downstairs, I wanted to take a look out back. This property takes up the entire city block, and there are other structures here that are not open to the public. Mr. Long had that structure built as a garage to house his vast automotive collection, and the chauffeur lived upstairs. Kind of fancy digs. Oh, look, downstairs. Very modern, very fancy. So I think I have found the original elevator here. Here it is. Isn't that interesting? Look, here is like the key. And you can see on the floor. We go in. Oh, it feels like an elevator. Oh yeah, look at that. Wow, I am really digging this elevator. Thank you guys so much for joining me today and sticking around until the end. I hope that you learned something or at least enjoyed yourself. I certainly did. And as always, I will see you all next week. Bye now.